Let's look at trading problems. What are your trading problems basically? On an average day, I get like so many emails, direct messages on Twitter or through various means. Sometimes, like ex-Stockbee members contact me or members contact me, and I talk to a lot of traders. And most of the conversation, 90% of the time, is about trading problems. And over the last 5-6 years, since Zoom became a popular thing, I had hundreds of Zoom meetings with people who have trading problems. So I have a very good understanding of trading problems and what are the common trading problems. So whenever people have trading problems, the ability to solve your trading problem is what makes a profitable trader. There is very little difference between a profitable trader and unprofitable trader. The only difference is profitable traders have found workable solutions to their trading problems, or they are very problem focused. They have the ability or self leadership to solve their trading problems. So what are your trading problems? When you look at this, right, and basically, you have to have a problem solving attitude. And one of the key to having a problem solving attitude and problem solving skills is to identify the right problem and then try and find solution for the right problem, right? Now, when you are dealing with trading, there are essentially based on talking to more than probably in the last 5 years, I must have spoken to more than 1,000 traders, right? And basically, I classify trading problems into 4 categories. One problem is setup problem, right? And basically, this is the number one problem. This is the most common and number one problem. Very, very common. Whenever people approach me, I ask them, what are you trading? Do you they cannot articulate what they are trading. They're just buying either random stocks, or they're just following somebody's recommendation, or they're doing something where they have half-baked idea. So first thing is to solve your setup problems, because many times people articulate their problems has something to do with psychology or something to do with market conditions, but really it is they don't have a setup. So understanding what is a setup. Setup is a set of condition a stock should satisfy in order to be considered for buying, and a setup includes every single element of a trade. A setup will have a scanning built into it. It will have a structural age. There will be an age. There will be an entry methodology. There will be a stop methodology. There is an exit methodology. There will be a profit taking. Everything related to, or a setup is like a formula, right? And I trade certain setups. I trade episodic pivots. I trade delayed reaction episodic pivot. I have a new kind of a setup based on the same idea like episodic pivot, which is called EP9 million. And I have a setup called momentum burst. Within these setups, I have sub-setups, right? And basically, now I know exactly what are my rules for entries, what are my rules for exit, what are the stops, when am I going to take profit, how is this setup going to be scanned for, when will the setup start showing up, and when it shows up, what is the totality of profit expectation from this setup. Now that setup is the foundation to becoming profitable. If you don't have a setup, and unfortunately, most new traders will spend 3 to 5 years before they can find setup idea. They don't even understand. There is no comprehension that in order to be profitable, you need to have a setup. A lot of time, people say, "Oh, I need to be very disciplined." Discipline is not going to solve your problem if you do not have a setup. So find a setup idea. The first step, if you want to be profitable, is find a setup idea with an edge. How can you find setup ideas? You can find setup idea very easily today, because you have so many people who are openly sharing their setup ideas either on Twitter or through various means, social media and many other things, books, or you can copy setup ideas which famous traders have used previously. Like Darvas wrote about his setup, and it's a very commonly known setup, which is a consolidation breakout. Or has written a book about his setup, and again, his setup idea is based on volatility compression, but it is essentially a consolidation breakout, right? And basically, William O'Neill popularized certain kinds of setups. If you want to be a day trader, there are setups which are used by day traders, which are very commonly known. Day traders use stocks in play, which is like some stocks with a fresh news catalyst. Small cap shorting, this is a very common technique which is used by day traders. Exhaustion, which is like whenever a stock is making or mean reversion, is a very common kind of a day trading setup. So first foundation, if you are having a trouble with your trading, is to question, do I have a setup? And is this setup something which is has a structural edge? Is it something that is how the market operates? Is it something which is going to be, it's not something which is like an ephemeral, it is something which is really based on a market structure. So that's the setup problem. Solving your setup problem is where bulk of the energy should go if you're a beginner or a struggling trader. Struggling traders also have a set of problems because they're trading either too much in these setups, or they're just many times, most of the times when I talk to anybody, a new trader or anybody who approaches me, my first question is, what is your setup? And a lot of times the discussion just doesn't go anywhere because they're trying to tell me things which are not setups, and they don't have a comprehension as to what is the structural tendency of a market and how to develop a setup idea, right? Now, let's say you have a setup idea. Let's say you have a setup idea like episodic pivots, right? Now, if you have a setup idea and you know everything about it, the next big challenge is a process problem. Process problems are problems where people don't know where to find information. Like if you're trading something like episodic pivot, you need to have information, you need to have a catalyst, you need to look at projected sales, you need to projected earnings, you need to look at what is the strength of the catalyst, how many funds are owning it, what is the neglect on this particular thing. Now a process is required to do this. Now process problems also manifest in many ways. Not putting a stop is a process problem, right? And because it is a process problem, but people don't want to acknowledge that it is a process problem, they give you a lot of emotional reason why that process should not be followed. Oh, the market maker is going to aim at my stop, or there are algorithms which are hunting for my stop. So they are trying to avoid a process problem by giving rational or irrational arguments. Process problems can be solved by finding process solutions. One of the process problems which I dealt with was when I trade breakouts, I had this list stocks which are breaking out in the morning, and also I had this another setup idea which was an anticipation, which is like a watch list which I was watching, and those stocks I used to watch, and they were also breaking out at the same time. Now if I tried to focus on the watch list, I would miss a breakout, and if I tried to focus on the breakout, I would miss from my watch list. So this is a process problem now. So how did I solve that process problem? I solved the process problem by shifting the process of entering anticipation setup, not in the morning, by entering anticipation setup previous day before the market close. Now that freed up energy for doing breakouts and focusing on breakouts, right? So I enter my anticipation setups just before the market closes. Because if something is going to be anticipated likely to break out, I want to be in it before the breakout actually happens. Right? So process problem is one of the things which you're going to see, right? And very common, right? And basically, the other thing which you're going to see in process problems, which is a very common kind of a problem traders have, is when to take profits. How to take profits. Now, these are all process problems, right? Or how to move stops. These are process problems. The process problems might be also I have, say I'm fully invested and I have a new idea. What do I do? Which one do I kill? Or how do I free up capital for the next trade? These are all process problems. Process problems can be solved by coming out with solutions to the problem, say generating solutions like solution 1, solution 2, solution 3, implementing solution 1, see if it works. If it doesn't work, go for solution 2, go for solution 3. And if that doesn't happen, then you again come out with ideas. A lot of time process problems are also solved by looking around and finding what are the solutions people have already found to this process problem. One of the very common process problem in trading, especially if you're trading short term, either day trading or swing trading, stocks goes up a lot, right, in a short period of time. And now, if you don't take profit or if you don't do anything about it, it ends up giving up the gains by the end of the day. Like if you look at today, like say Home Depot, right, at once upon a time, based on the earnings, was up around almost like around $14-13, right? And then but by the end of the day, it ended up giving, and it's only up like $5 from the open, right? And now that's a very common kind of a problem which you're going to see. So how do you tackle a problem like this, where you have this open profit, which is very lucrative if you're a day trading, right? I'm talking in day trading context in this case of Home Depot now. So how do you solve this problem? Now, I also had this kind of a problem. Now, our solution to this problem is to peel the position. So, when there is a profit, I start peeling 20%, 25%, 30% of the position and keep selling it. So, as a result of that, you're keeping the profits, right? The other solution is to sell into strength. So, whenever a stock goes beyond a certain limit, in terms of either a dollar move or in terms of a percentage move or in terms of distance from a moving average, then you start selling the position and move your stops very aggressively or trail it with a very aggressive stop. Now, this is a process solution to a trading problem, right? Basically, most trading problems which have you can find a process solutions. One of the things which I commonly hear is I'm working, this is why I can't do this, I can't do that. Now, if you're working, you have to find a process solution to your problems. There are many process solutions which they use because they are working. I talked to a couple who have a unique situation where they can only trade up to 11 o'clock because their kids, they need to get the kids from daycare and things like that. So they have found a process solution and they tweaked a setup idea also to fit that process problem. So they are not trading breakouts like commonly people are trading. What they are doing is they have found a process solution by using what is a setup idea which I use, which is called delayed reaction EP, where you are not buying a EP on the day of the breakout, but you are waiting for a pullback. And they operate from a watch list, and they just have a 3 or 4 stocks, and then that is the only list which they focus on, and they manage to they do it till 11 o'clock, and after that they go on with their life. They have other business, they do other things. Now they found a process solution, right? Similarly, I have a member who works for a company which doesn't even allow you to get an iPhone or a phone into the company. They have to put it in a locker before entering the premises, right? So how can you enter trades? He's in California, right? And so one of the process solution he's found is that during the lunch hours, they are allowed to go out for lunch. So he goes out for lunch, and that is the time when he runs his scans, looks at the trade, and enters that particular thing. Now, this is a process solution. This is not a setup challenge. This is a process solution, right? Or how do we manage stops if you're in a problem, if you're working? Now, it needs a process solution. And the more process solutions you know about from talking to others or what they are used, it allows you to have a series of process solutions which you can try out and use those process solutions to solve your trading problem. Process solutions are required for entries, for exits, they're required for stops, they're required for managing multiple positions, right? And basically, so think in terms of process solutions, and the more process solution oriented, this game of trading is not about finding some secret course or finding some secret book on trading or joining some website or group and it is going to instantly solve your problem. Nothing magical is going to solve your trading problem. This is a process problem. You have to work at a process, and you have to work at a process till you find a workable process which works for you. And the process solutions are not always perfect. They are not mathematically the best solution or the most elegant solution, but they are workable solution. Like selling into strength is a very workable solution, or peeling a position is a very workable solution, or entering a stock using an opening price guarantee or a market on open order is a workable solution to entering episodic pivot. Is it the most elegant solution or the perfect solution? No. But you have to find a workable solution. And this can be a trap for many people, because many people, they are so driven to find a perfect solution that they can waste year or 2 years and they're never happy. You have to live with certain amount of uncertainty in this business. So find solution to your process problems, right? And process problems is second category of problem which I see, right? Now, if you have a setup and you have a process, and then the next set of problem comes in. I first found a setup idea which is like a momentum burst and created a process around it. And then I discovered that there are market phases, or there are times in the market when this thing doesn't work. And there are times in the market when this setup idea and this process works like a charm. So once I discovered that, this is what is called, and this is true for any setup, anybody's setup you trade, right? And basically, if you are wanting to trade, say, Nicholas Darvaz's box setup, Nicholas Darvaz says very clearly that he used his setup idea only in a rising bull market. In fact, he made his 2.5 million in one of the most roaring bull markets. He didn't trade his setup idea in a bearish market or during market correction, right? So he had a situational awareness filter built into his system. The canceling methodology, which is pioneered by William O'Neill, also has a market element to it. And when the market is not in your favor, they don't take a trade, right? And basically, so once you have solved your problem of setup, and once you solved your problem of process, the next set of challenge or next set of problems can be, you have a setup, you have a process, but it doesn't work in certain market condition. And that is when situational awareness is a problem, and ability to identify good times for your setups and bad times for setup, or developing a set of setup ideas which you can trade when one of your setup is not going to be working. Like breakouts are not likely to work in this market condition. So you can trade another kind of a setup idea which is suitable for this particular kind of a market conditions, right? So once you have this problem solving approach and you clearly overcome your problem of setup, process, and situational awareness problem, your problems are not over. As I said, this business is about ability to solve your trading problems. And people fail in this business because they don't have the ability to solve their own trading problem, right? And basically, then the fourth problem comes in, and which is a challenging problem, which is a trader problem. You have a setup, you have a process, you know how the setup works, you know the process, you have the situational awareness. But then the trader problems are like you are over trading, right? Over trading is not a setup problem. It is not a process problem. It is not a situational awareness problem. It is a problem, trader problem, right? Trader cannot control himself and he over trades. When there are no good setup also, he puts in a setup. Or he just cannot control himself when he sees a breakout, irrespective of what his situational awareness was, he goes and puts in a trade. Now, this is a trader problem. This has nothing to do with the market. This has nothing to do with your setup. This has nothing to do with your process. Now, this is a kind of a problem which is an emotional, or the psychologists called emotional control problem, right? And now this is a problem which requires a solution, which is going to be a difficult solution, because this is very difficult problem which traders face. And you have to be creative in finding solution. Many times, people have loss limits for this reason. They have a number of trade limit, or like you can have an intervention, right? And basically a lot of people who day trade this, they have this problem, right? And they get into this zone and they start trading and they don't realize that the market changes characteristic, right? The market in the morning from 9:30 to 10:30 or 10 o'clock is a different market from after 10:30 when the lunch period or slow period comes in. It's a different market condition, right? So I worked with a trader who is a very good day trader, but he had a severe problem of over trading. And his problem was that he would make money in the first 1 hour, 5,000, 6,000, sometimes 10,000. And then he would end up giving up that gains during the day by over trading. So we had a multiple sessions and multiple brainstorming sessions saying, how do you break? Because in order to trade this kind of a problem, you need to create some sort of an intervention mechanism, right? If you're in an organizational setting and if your boss tells you not to trade and takes away your ability to trade, then that's going to be a solution. But if you're an independent trader trading on your own, sitting in your own office or in your house, how do you create an intervention? So we came out with an idea of intervention, which was to put an alarm at 10:30, and then when the alarm rings, to get up and walk or do something, right? And for 10-15 minutes to break that cycle of thinking and understand this is a different market. I don't need to trade it same way, maybe slow down trading, right? Now the problem is once that solution was implemented, if you put alarm on the phone, it's very easy. You just press one button and you stop the alarm. So he came back and said this is the problem. So I gave him an idea, just out of, wacky ideas are sometimes what is required to break the pattern of problem solving, right? And so I just gave him an idea, said why don't you buy one of those old style watch which requires that winded kind of a watch where you cannot just press a button. You need to physically go and bang one button or something on that. And I said put it in another room so that you are forced to walk. Put it in a kitchen. So when it rings and it's very loud, right? And if you've seen one of those old style watches which used to clocks which used to have this kind of alarm thing. So he started using it, and once he started using it, he immediately got back to me saying, hey, this thing works, right? And but then again, human nature is such that after in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, when it used to ring, he used to allow it to ring for some time, right? Or he would go put it back and come back. So we came out with a solution saying put 2 or 3 alarms at different 5 minutes interval at different location. Now what has happened is because of this, he's forced to walk out of the office, go close one alarm, close another alarm, which breaks the cycle in his mind where he was getting completely engrossed in trading and not realizing that the time had changed, I need to stop trading and things like that. Now this is something that person was motivated also to find a solution. He was also willing to accept a solution, and the intervention kind of a solution worked. So if you have an over trading problem, in my experience, you need to have some sort of an intervention kind of a solution. The intervention can be to at 10:30 you take your dog for a walk, or at 10:30 you go and buy a sandwich, or at 10:30 you go and eat an ice cream. So that you want to break the pattern, because look, and if I continue to sit here after that time period, it is going to lead to losses, or it is not the same market condition. So these are some of the solutions to problems, right? Obviously, in order to come to this kind of a solution to problem, you also need to think creatively. You have to be willing to experiment, try out solutions, and not really say this is too crazy, this is not going to work, right? So trader problems, one problem is really of basically over trading. The other problem is FOMO. Fear of missing out, which is a typical trader problem. It is not a problem of setup, right? It is not a process problem. It is not a situational awareness problem. And because of FOMO, especially in the first few minutes of the market, there are a lot of stocks which break out. And if you get FOMO and if you enter, and many of them breakouts nowadays fade, right? Now FOMO can be a big problem. And in order to overcome FOMO, you have to slow down your trading, and you have to be operating, or probably sometimes you have to completely change. If you have a severe FOMO problem, you have to totally change your setup idea or a process. One of the solution of a FOMO is to trade something like a delayed reaction. EP or a pullback kind of a mechanism of a setup, right? And that allows you to overcome FOMO. The third kind of a trader problem is like overriding your process, right? You have like basically a process and a setup idea where you decided that I'm going to risk 1%, and then you suddenly override it and put in 4% or 5%, or the stock starts going against you, you take out the stop, or you decide in the morning, okay, look, market is gapping down, I don't want my stops to be hit, I'm going to take out my stops, and as a result the losses increases. So sabotaging yourself by overriding your process and system is another trader problem. Now these are trader problems in my experience are the most difficult to solve. It is much easy to solve a setup problem easy to solve, relatively easy, process problem easy. Situational awareness, you just need to develop some sort of a framework for situational awareness. The biggest struggle is always going to be in trader problems, and in order to solve trader problem you need the ability to introspect, you need an ability to be innovative, you need the ability to be creative, you need the ability to find solutions others have used and implement those solutions and see if they work, right? And basically, you should not have this attitude. Some of the people, when I tell them like this is a solution, why don't you try it out? Their first reaction is, but it will not work. If but is your default answer to every solution somebody is giving you or you come across, you will never be able to solve this trader problem. So this is a framework in terms of problem, which is 4 kinds of trading problems: setup problem, process problem, situational awareness, and trader problem. Now, if you can work out what is your problem, finding solutions become easier. And this is a framework which I've been using for many years now, and it is a continuous process. In trading, problem never ends. You are going to have problems, right? Or a market condition change, or setups deteriorate. So you are constantly dealing with problems. So abilities create or learn the techniques of problem solving. There are there is an entire science of problem solving. There is an entire science of process engineering called operational research, which uses certain kind of techniques. And become good at solving problems. Become good at collecting solutions which other people have used for trading problems, and those solutions then can become a source of solution to your own trading problem. So if you have a trading problem and if you want to find a solution to your trading problem, put it in your comments and I will see if I can answer some of these problems, because I have seen various problems. I deal with different kinds of traders. In fact, almost every day I do 2 or 3 Zoom meetings with traders with problems. So put your problems, and next week I'll do a video on some of the comments, selected comment, not all of this, and then we'll try and find a solution or a possible approach which you can take to solve the trading problems.